covered a lot of ground, as I imagine most of you did, and so I'm not going to use my minute to repeat.
We want to return to the days when Minnesota was exceptional.
A number of Minnesota businesses, organizations, and individuals are expressing their concerns about the environment and state policy.
We know the value of, say, a yard of industrial silica sand, but we're not measuring the impact of losing a bluff.
They are doing so through a series of citizen forums co-sponsored by the Minnesota Environmental Quality Board.
Then we got into a discussion of farming and the future of farming and how urban growth...
We're hosting a Congress for the state of Minnesota, citizen conversations in late November and early December, where we invite everyone from Minnesota to come and participate. Tell us what they think about our future. What should environmental quality bring us in Minnesota? What do we value about it? What do we see as doing really well? And where do we need improvement? Lots of people want to put up solar panels. Lots of communities want to try to reduce their carbon footprint and do things to make our energy system cleaner and more efficient in terms of cost and usage of energy. And there's just so many barriers in the way, so we're looking at trying to figure out how to remove barriers and make it easier for communities to be leaders. We need to have a vision of where we want to be 10 years from now, 20 years from now, and 30 years from now, so that our children and future generations know that they're going to have a state that has as good environmental quality and opportunities for them as possible.
The citizen forums are part of a build-up to the Minnesota Environmental Congress in March. They will have been convened in Bloomington, Rochester, Duluth, Worthington, St. Cloud, and Moorhead.
Now, this is something that comes from the Environmental Quality Board, which is a subset of Governor Dayton's cabinet. So it's 8 state agency commissioners that look at how environmental policy affects all different sectors of the state, from our natural resources to our transportation sector to economic development to health. It covers all those bases, and so we need to think about it strategically, and we need to think about how our environmental quality not only affects our quality of life, but affects our economic prosperity and is important to our state's economy.
The gathering at Normandale Community College in Bloomington was attended by nearly 300 people.
Anyone that wants to get to the coffee pot, you'll have to crowd surf from here to there, that corner back there.
Opinions and priorities of attendees at each of the 6 forums are gathered from surveys and discussion groups.
Developing and using more alternative energy sources like
responses to survey questions were tapped onto keypads and then instantly shared with the entire room.
The top vote getter here is no sorting recyclables. This is the single sort. Everything goes in one bin. Is the front runner on that one.
The breakout groups produced ranked lists of environmental concerns and recommended courses of action.
My thought was that we're going to see the change in more dramatic weather systems.
You know, shining the light on that, I think.
Okay, let's see some action.
The feedback from the 6 forums and from comments sent via the Environmental Congress website will define the scope and direction of the March conference.
So what's the next question? What actions?
On the internet, go to mn.gov/Environmental Congress.
And so whoever the reporter is now, you got 1 minute.
So here's my little list. We're going to do local energy, local food, local block clubs, raise chickens and bees, grow hemp, and for all of the...
Okay. The first word is transparency. Second is learn, which could maybe be open to learn, being open to learn. Accountability, sustainability.
education of young people, getting young people more involved in outdoors, getting them away from their electronic devices, getting them outside so they actually can.
More emphasis on local production, more compact development, manure digesters, increased public transit, healthier food for school children, freedom from fossil fuels.
There was a desire to see environmental justice issued covered, i.e. the locations. There's a disparate amount of environmental impact in low-income areas, and the forums themselves need to be inclusive of low-income areas.
His group was concerned with wildlife stress, specifically wolves, and more respect for wildlife habitat.
An action that was recognized as low-hanging fruit that can be taken immediately is we need to learn how legislators are voting on individual issues. Many times these environmental issues are buried in large omnibus bills. 200 or 300 pages, and nobody seems to know how their legislators feel on a particular item. So they'd like to see it broken out or an easier way for that to be reported.
Climate change is a big issue, and the legislature should declare climate change as an important issue.
Minnesota has a responsibility, the state of Minnesota, to put that data out and make sure citizens are aware that it is real.
Sharing of resources across different public agencies throughout the state, if not in the United States.
And it would be just change the economics, the culture, and the mentality, and it would be just fine.
All right, this table.
Our group talked a lot about the political process and how it's broken and what can we do to help change it. And we need to expect more from our politicians, but also from ourselves.
Is our whole group was very happy with this process. They saw all these commissioners and people who work for the governor all in the same room, all talking about the same issues. And they thought it was important to send a message to the governor that we expect the agency heads to work together.
Better scenarios for the future. We want truly wild places like our state parks, not marred by cell phone towers or other problems.
We want the EQB to invest in holistic, connected work, hand in hand with all Minnesotans, and deliberately inclusive, focused on access to all communities, and integrating education.
A certification program for farmers who are operating their farms in a sustainable way, ways that would retain soils, that sort of thing.
To get off fossil fuels, to grow our foods without pesticides or GMOs. To restore the Minnesota Climate Change Advisory Group's Next Generation Act recommendations and implementations. To have our state leadership work with the national leadership to develop a comprehensive climate change strategy.
And so we talked a lot about the use of public lands for private gain. We talked about grazing, mining, and hunting.
How we drive the size of our lawns and encouraging growth in livable, walkable communities.
People need to talk with their neighbors, also vote with their pocketbook.
And we lastly had a very healthy debate on trying to strike the balance between incentives and regulation.
They're okay with regulations. It's okay. Except for when it comes to innovative green opportunities. They wanted to make sure that there were less restrictions on that.
And then they also appreciated the event, but wanted to make sure that you all think about how you will get a busy, stressed middle class engaged in the issues, because tonight the choir was here.
To talk more. Forums like this where we talk citizen to citizen, but also more coordination and cooperation among state agencies, and also more leadership from EQB and moving this direction forward.
We want to return to the days when Minnesota was exceptional, when it was looked to as a model elsewhere.
But at the same time, after mentioning all of those concerns, our group really could see a much better scenario down the road to address all of these issues.
We need to take time to get to know our neighbors. I now know 2 new people, wild fans. This guy's a snowmobiler. I'm a cross-country skier. What do we both love? Snow. We need snow. Bill McKibben is...
The Minnesota Environmental Congress accepts comments via its website and other media. On the internet, go to mn.gov/Environmental Congress. That's mn.gov/Environmental Congress.
This program is made possible by Democratic Visions and the Willard Munger Earth Steward Project.